double, triple, quadruple because we continue to activate people who are people and teachers who really like to support us.
And that's the reality is, Nicho, with it is that you've got the market share of people that are on the apps, which is pretty clear by the metrics that the teachers and the people come to you guys for whatever reason, but you do, and that's power. Like when you've got the people power, you've got, you might not have the dollar value right now, but you do have the people value.
I think that's right, and it is against the backdrop. It always comes back to the first comment we were making, which is that we look around society and what people gravitate to, and it is the noise, it is the above the line, it's the big advertising, it's the Instagram, all that sort of stuff. And we obviously use some of those channels, but we do it in quite a different way. And look, it remains to be seen, but we continue to grow really well, and we don't think we should change that. It works well. We'd like to be doing a few more things, and I think over the next 12 months you'll see us far more, activate certain channels. Look, the absolute. We put up a billboard in San Francisco this week.
I saw that.
That was a bit cheeky. That's the extent of our advertising, but we thought it was it was a bit of fun.
Yeah.
It was a bit of fun. But that was just a little experiment we ran just to sort of see whether we get a conversation started. Yeah. But back to your point, more time is spent on Insight Timer than on any other meditation app combined.
Yeah.
Which is a vast, vast number. And you consider how many meditation apps out there, including some of the bigger ones, we have incredible engagement.
Is there any sort of future planning, Nicho, like, as you said, to create different channels? When you say that, do you mean more online channels, or would there be potential to create like a physical present channel in terms of studios and that type of thing?
I'm quite confident that we wouldn't, get into bricks and mortar.
Yep.
I know that, other apps talk about that sort of thing. It doesn't feel like something that we would do. But, we have 6,000 groups of meditators who convene on the app.
Yeah.
Well, certainly if they wanted to, find it easy to, to convene offline, that would make sense,
Yep.
And so localized versions of people coming together physically, and that we could all sort of enable that. Yes, that to me would be what we would maybe think about offline. Would just be if people are in New York and you want to find a group meditation, you'd use Insight Timer as the tool to do that. But that would be where I'd say we'd end with that offline.
Yeah, okay.
That offline implementation. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think what you're doing with the retreats and that as well, I think it's important to have an omni-channel presence in the meditation, because online you definitely need it because you can't get to a class or you can't get to a retreat all the time. Yeah. But my feeling, this is just my personal feeling, is that we can use meditation and those sorts of things almost like a church now to build community. Yep. And build talks and create a conversation around a common ground, which is meditation, which is around being more mindful, more present, more kind. But we need a face-to-face connection just as much as we need the online.
Absolutely, and you would understand that as a meditation teacher, is that you love being in front of people, you love teaching, and I think that's what teachers feel good about. They feel good about sitting with people, and if they can sell a course online, that's fantastic. If they could, for instance, if there was a nice little meditate together, a live, some sort of, meditate live, I think that'd be really nice. But I think for me, I feel meditation teachers are somewhat motivated or defined by the time they spend sitting in a group, sitting in a circle, enjoying Q&A, having experiences, going on retreats and those sorts of things. And so I think the two coexist. Yeah, they coexist. Yeah.
And for you personally, Nicho, what's your current, but what's the future hold for you? Where do you sort of want to take your practice and your evolution in how you're growing Edmund and Amelia and Insight as well?
I I feel fortunate to, there's sort of three channels of what I do. I spend, if I put my attention to something, teaching meditation is essentially what is the foundation of all of this for me. And I think the retreats platform Edmund Amelia sits in alongside that. And that's sort of where it started. And so that's the foundation. And of course, Insight's becoming, a much more serious operation, and we're moving into other markets and things like that. But Christopher really runs that, and he and I, he and I are partners in that. But I wouldn't move my focus away from running meditation courses and taking people on retreats, because it's essentially the foundation for how this whole thing started. So that's where my attention starts, and with that in play, then obviously my attention shifts back to Insight. But for now, put it this way: if 6 years ago, 7 years ago now, I'd have said that this would be the things I'd be doing, given what I had been doing and the sort of life I'd be leading, I wouldn't have believed it. So for now, it's more just about probably putting time and energy into each of these sort of three channels and seeing what comes of that. And for me, what I feel fortunate to do is it feels somewhat that, like yourself, we can impart a technique. We can pass on a technique to people, which hopefully is going to make them feel a whole lot better about a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
That has a good feeling about it. And for now, it would just be to make sure that, through each of those three methods that I'm doing it, that I do it to the best of my ability. And so I think there's a lot of room to do more of that. Teach more people, run more retreats, and make Insight, something better than it's becoming.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm.
How, in your meditation practice, and how has it affected life? I know that you've got kids as well, Nicho. In terms of your parenting and other aspects of your life, what have been the shifts and changes? From not just meditating itself, but then moving a career and a lifestyle that sits next to that meditation practice that becomes immersive as one.
It has led to a lot of change in my life, and change can sometimes be challenging. And so, I would say that I'm yet to probably be able to reflect on how that all settles down. It's a really good question, and I'm probably still working through that. But when you choose to change certain things, or in fact you're almost rendered choiceless by virtue of the path you choose to take, a lot of things can change. And I'm sorry I'm sounding a bit cryptic, because I'm in the middle of a lot of change at the moment, which is impacting family and all those types of things. And I think when you do sort of step into that path, you have to somewhat surrender to the change that you don't really know that is coming, but you have to understand will continue to come if you're going to continue to get up and continue meditating, continue to explore, and to, go to places where you can access more knowledge. I mean, I was in India twice last year. So I have chosen to continue to do the work and move down that path, and it has come with a lot of personal change, right? And sometimes that change can be very difficult to step through.
Yeah.
And sometimes that change, because it can be, really, because that change can be happening all around you and impact others, there are times when it looks as if that change is you have to trust that you're playing the long game, you see. And so it's changed everything. It's changed how I feel physically. It's changed my view on things. It's changed what I do on a daily basis. It's changed a whole lot of relationships on a family level, on a friend level. It couldn't have. I mean, I like to say that the change is progressive, but sometimes it can be, it can be quite dramatic.
Yeah. Do you ever, and because this is probably what you were saying feels like a reflective piece of how I've gone through it as well, because it's a similar story.
Yes.
Do you ever think that sometimes it'd be easier not to have sort of unlocked a lot of stuff that you've unlocked, and it would have been easier to shift in to continue a more of an unconscious path and just go through life?
Yes, absolutely, it is, and ignorance is bliss, and I do. I had a conversation with someone last night about exactly that.
Yeah.
Sometimes change and shifting things is challenging, and would it be easier just to what would have happened if the path hadn't started? But of course, as I can sense, you must have experienced yourself. Once you start moving that way, it just becomes this continuous sort of removing of the layers, and it won't stop, because I think there's not. It's very difficult to just turn around and make an intellectual to do. So if you continue to step up, meditate regularly, do the work, your action starts to reflect your state of consciousness. So you don't really have much choice in it.
No. And I think Nicho, what you're saying too, what I've come to understand in this is that I think initially you think when you remove some layers, then you'll find it'll be good, it'll all set itself and settle down. But the more layers you get, and the deeper you go into it, and the more you uncover, and actually the harder it gets sometimes, and it's a bloody tough road. Like for a lot of the time that you do question yourself and you do question others, and there's a lot of stories that play out in your head, and you get more information, and it creates more ambiguity, and you sit there for a long time until you can sort of sit there and be okay to sit there and feel that position right now is okay, and that's sort of when, for me personally, it's settled down.
I'm chuckling with you as I'm self-reflecting too. So we're both self-referring. But I really thank goodness for our meditation practice in the middle of all the change, because one's a catalyst, and then one also becomes a way for us to for one to hold the space in the middle of that. And change, when one shifts, then other things have to shift around you. So often enough, a lot of the feedback can be challenging, particularly from loved ones.
Yep.
Because of course, if one thing's changing in the midst of things that are quite locked in old patterns, then that story has to change, and then they have to change, and it can be a really challenging time. So what I try to do, and I at times not sure that I do it as well as I'd like to, I just have to trust the fact that I meditate, remove stress, remove fatigue, access creativity. My individuality has that kind of universal experience a couple of times a day. And then I'm just moving in a direction. So I don't, as much as my intellect might sit there and say, well, this is tough, I don't find myself acting on it any other way than just turning up again. Because the only way that, the only way that progressive change would stop would be that I would stop meditating, revert to old ways, and essentially it's just not happening. It would be someone having to reject the whole sort of premise for this journey, which I think you could probably relate to yourself.
And I absolutely. And a word that I use a lot, but I'd love to get your reflection piece on it. Like, how important in that journey for you is authenticity?
Well, I think I think if people are meditating regularly, and I keep coming back to that because I think, of course, we might use yoga and all that, but if you're meditating regularly, then your mind is moving from that surface layer of identity and ego and other things to a more authentic part of yourself. Okay, so you're having an experience of your true nature, and then you open your eyes and you go into your morning or go into your evening, and there's a reflection of you that through regular practice is just an authentic version of yourself. So, to think about authenticity is more like just be who you are as a regular meditator, and I think that's the way you move through your life. And I think we can label something authentic or be it, and just trust that we are by virtue of the way that we're implementing our practice, and by virtue of that, the way that we engage with people, the way that we try and relate to people, even the simple things, the way that we see people during the day or speak to them or smile at someone, and you can't make that up.
No,
can't make it up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered your question because it's a good one.